So can everybody see this? How to sync contacts to KW command and automate for the future. That's kind of what we're covering here. Making sure you can sync everybody you put in your phone into command and make sure it's taken care of on an ongoing basis in the future. So you don't have to keep updating it. You don't have to keep downloading, uploading, copying and pasting or any of that stuff. So that's what we're gonna do. Just to give you a little bit of background, my name is Gabe. I'm with API Nation. So API Nation, you can see we're all about connecting the world's applications. So there's a lot of other companies similar to us. There's like Make, there's Zapier, there is, let's see, there's a couple others that I can't think of right now, but what we do a little bit differently than them is, one, we are focused on real estate. So we started connecting the applications, and pretty early on, we noticed that real estate agents were coming to us a lot. And it's because you guys have about 30 to 40 apps you're opening and closing every day, adding information, sharing information, which was a lot more, you guys know, than a lot of other businesses and a lot of other entrepreneurs. So we thought, let's go here, because it just seems like there's so many apps that need to get connected in this space. So that's where we've been in real estate. That's one part that makes us different. The other part is that when we build these integrations, there's no code, first of all. So there's nothing there you don't have to look up. But we also build it with hand in hand with real estate agents to see what they want it to do. So that you don't just go there and it's just like, hey, here's 2 apps. Good luck connecting them. They probably connect like every other app. We know that's not true. We know different apps do different things and you need different stuff to happen. So when you go to API Nation to connect something from KW command, there's already a bunch of configuration that's done for you so that it's most useful for real estate professionals. Kind of our beliefs, a few things we're really into. 1 + 1 = 3. Obviously that is not true, but 1 + 1 = 3 is this principle that as you add things, normally it's 1 + 1 = 2, add another one, that's 3, that another one is 4. And you just keep adding and it grows linearly. We believe if you connect things like these gears are connected, if you connect these apps, as you add each app to your tech stack, you'll actually see growth and scale exponentially. So that's the idea of 1 + 1 = 3. You're going to see much more growth by connecting them. Your time is valuable. So when you set up these syncs, they will most likely be super easy to set up, and they're all aimed at saving you time. So they are looking to automate some manual tasks that you have probably in the past have had to do and schedule a little bit of time block from. Cool. And then the last thing is the just work button. Like I said, when you go through, set up the sync, it is basically just going to work. You push a big button at the top that says activate sync, and then things will start moving across, and you don't have to go back and push the button again. You don't have to monitor it. You don't have to remember it. It's just going to work every time you look at your phone. New contacts will be there from your command. Every time you add somebody or you hop in command, you'll see people from your phone. So yeah, there we go. Cool. All right. I'm going to do a couple questions here before we move forward. Some great questions. People still chiming in with where they're from. Illinois. Awesome. Good to have you, Latrice. Latrice, her contacts are in Google. So Jay asked, can we pull contacts from one lead source and send to multiple places? We're going to cover that. I'm going to leave that open because I want to make sure we can talk about that later on. Matthew says, is there a monthly cost? There is. For a lot of the syncs at API Nation for command, you're going to get them through the KW Marketplace. So actually, let's go there now because this is a good time to kind of hop in there and talk about that. So you guys probably are familiar with KW command. So I'm going to go there. And likely, you are also familiar with the Marketplace, hopefully. So the Marketplace, if you're not familiar, it's a great place to go and find other tools unique to Keller Williams agents that you can use to, improve your business. Some deals are, there's some deals on some apps and tools there. To get to the marketplace, you're going to come up here where it says marketplace. I wonder if I can get that. Let me get my little circle here. Makes it a little easier to see. There we go. All right. So you're going to come up here to this marketplace thing. Looks like a little storefront. Click on it. It's going to log you into the KW marketplace. And this is going to be just a bunch of tools, apps, some physical good hardware, and some services like photography that are unique and available to Keller Williams agents. So you can see here's one of ours, KW Command and Zillow. So you can sync Zillow leads right into Command. And you can see this one in particular is $10. Most of the syncs on here you're going to see are $10. Some of them have a 30-day free trial, so you can turn it on, make sure it's syncing exactly what you want, exactly how you want for about 30 days, and then it'll start to charge you. But for most of them, I would say on average, they're about $10. So that is that's the cost. Company field for Command in API Nation. I'll look for that when we do this sync. Who's using Command with the Zillow integration? What does it look like? Oh, okay. Yeah, I think we're going to cover that probably in an upcoming webinar. We're going to do Zillow and Realtor.com. That's interesting. Frank, I'll reach out after this and we can talk about that because, yeah, we'll get you some information on what that looks like. All right. Tara Donahue, Scott, any updates on when a sync can happen with Teams? That is a great question. That is all we're working on right now as far as KW syncs go. How do we get Teams? How do we get Rainmaker accounts on here? So that will be, I would say, maybe weeks, but soon, within, definitely this quarter, as far as I can tell. But I would imagine as soon as it's done, you'll get an email, just like you got an email inviting you to this webinar, and it'll say, Teams are ready, let's do it. So yeah, that will be very, very soon. It's like I said, it's all we're working on right now. Cool. Can you sync iPhone and Google contacts? You absolutely can. Sheila, that's a great question. Let me just show you that real quick, and I'm going to actually take you over to API Nation to tell you a little bit more about that. So yeah, this is the KW Marketplace before I go to API Nation, just so everybody's clear. This is separate from API Nation. You can buy things, some syncs that API Nation offers here. You can buy all the command syncs here and a couple more that KW agents are into. And you're probably, you're going to want to buy them here. This is the best place to get those. So you can just search for API Nation, or you can search for the app you're trying to connect. For example, maybe you're trying to connect Boomtown to Command, and you'll see KW Command and Boomtown. $0 a month. It's got a 30-day free trial. So if you wanted to do that, you could do it. All right. Also, another thing, if you're trying to locate some API Nation integrations, you see we actually have our own category. So if you search for something, you can't find it, contacts, you're like, where is this contact stuff? Just come down here, click on API Nation, and then it's going to only show you the syncs available for through API Nation. Cool. That question about syncing Google contacts to iCloud. Let's tackle that by going over to API Nation as a website. So if you go to apination.com and you are looking to sync Command, you'll go here, you'll click on it, and you'll think, all right, we're doing it. I don't need that marketplace. But what will really happen is you click on this and it say, all right, we're taking you to the marketplace, because the marketplace is the best place to get the syncs. So you can definitely go directly to the marketplace and get it done. If you come to API Nation to do it, we are going to hot link you right to the sync you're trying to get in the marketplace. But yeah. However, if you're trying to sync something that's not Command, like they're trying to sync iPhone to Google, definitely come to API Nation. Come down here to your iPhone, HIGH, there it is, iPhone. And you can absolutely set this up yourself. So iPhone, Google, I'll just go through this and set up a sync here. It's going to look exactly like setting up a sync through KW command. You're just going to connect both apps and it'll start syncing. So yeah, if you want to sync something like that, come to API Nation and you can handle it there. Cool. All right, so those are the two things I wanted to talk about. First, you can find the syncs, all the ones relevant to Keller Williams agents. They're going to be at the marketplace. Go to the KW marketplace, grab them there. If you buy them, they go in your My Apps area if you ever need them. And you'll see, okay, so I got one here. And I would just click on that. And that's how I set up the actual sync. So if you buy the sync in the marketplace, it does not turn on until you go into My Apps, click on the tile, and go through the configuration. I'm going to configure that Google Contact Sync we talked about earlier just a little bit, but I'm going to reiterate that a lot. If you just buy the sync, it does not turn itself on. You have to go into My Apps, click through the tile, and activate it there. All right. Let's hop back into this slideshow. Great questions. All right. Frank, I will reach out. Thank you so much for that. I'm going to grab that number, throw that in my notes so I can give you a call right after this about the Zillow. Jay, is that $10 a month for every sync example, command to Google, MailChimp to another CRM? It is, yeah. In general, it's $10 a month for every connection, every sync. So command to Google would be $10. If you also want to do command to MailChimp, be another $10. If you also want to do command to Google Sheets, it'd be a separate $10. I'm going to share the exception to that here in just a little bit. So we'll talk about that in just a bit, about how you can sync a bunch of stuff and still only pay $10. All right, so before you actually turn any of this stuff on, I want you to consider a few things. You don't have to do all these things, but I wanted to throw all these things out here as like, if you want to be absolutely certain things are, you want to start off on the absolute right foot, or if you're a trainer and you want to have a good checklist of the things you want to do before you get somebody syncing, this is what I would suggest. So the first thing you want to do, open up contacts.google.com or the contacts on your Mac. And if you're doing Google Contacts, you're going to go to contacts.google.com. If you are doing your iCloud contacts, open up contacts on your Mac, or I believe your iPhone, you can do it also. First thing you're going to do before you start syncing, you're going to want to merge and fix any duplicates. So let me see if I can actually just, let me see if I can just open up Google Contacts real quick. Contacts. And we can talk about that. Share. There we go. Okay, cool. So Google Contacts, merge and fix. This is what you're going to want to do in Google Contacts before you start syncing, because you don't want to start syncing and start off on the foot where you already have a bunch of duplicates. You want to make sure all the duplicates are gone before you start sending the duplicates to another system. Google makes this really easy with this merge and fix. You just click on it. It's going to show you everybody that Google has found that says this look like the same people. And if they are, you just click merge. If they're not, you say dismiss. Those are two different people, and it's going to treat them as two different people. So that's the first thing you want to do. You're going to do a similar thing in Mac on iCloud. You're going to open up contacts and just make sure you don't have any duplicates. They don't have the same tool here, merge and fix. So it's a little bit more time intensive. Cool. So that's the first step. Back up your contacts. This is not such a big deal, to be honest, because we're never going to delete your contacts. We are only going to add contacts to one side or the other. But it's pretty good practice to just keep your contacts backed up every so often. If you have this sync on, it's kind of nice because it's automatically backing up your contacts from command to Google Contacts anyway. But just to be absolutely certain, if you want to be an A+ student, you might want to back up your contacts before you start. To do that, I believe you can just hit this export button in Google Contacts, and it's going to create a file of your contacts currently. And in Mac, there is a button also to export all your contacts. It's going to create a special Mac file to have all your contacts in a single file. So that is something else you might want to consider. A reason I say it's not that big a deal is actually, I'm going to jump ahead to point 5. You can undo changes specifically in Google Contacts pretty easily. You can't do it in Mac, but or in iCloud or iPhone, but specifically in Google Contacts, which just seemed like most people were using, there is this feature up here in the top right. There's a little gear. If you find you've made a terrible mistake, mistakes were made, and your contacts are pretty crazy, just come in here, first pause the sync, come in here, hit this gear, and just say undo changes. Just say, we need to roll this thing back. And it can roll it back to 10 minutes ago, an hour, yesterday, a week ago. You can roll it back to any day within the past 30 days. So just know that is always available if things go funky. And the last thing I would suggest you do before you start this syncing is just get your labels set up so that when you start your sync, it's going to make the most sense to you. So for example, over here, I have some example labels, but you would probably want to think about how you want to organize your contacts in Google. And maybe you want to organize them so that they mirror KW command. So for example, if you are putting people in a hot tag, a warm tag, dead tag, a prospect tag, then maybe you just want to make labels for each of those in Google Contacts that match up with KW command. So that is probably what I would suggest. Put some thought into how you want to organize the people, and then go through and actually organize them with their labels here. So yeah, that is what I would suggest, is get those labels set up, and that way, when you sync this all together, it's going to set up the system that you want. All right, so we're going to answer a couple questions here before we move forward. What about Outlook, Mary White? Great question. Outlook is also offered. You need to make sure it is an Outlook version that's online. There's still some people who are running Outlook through their own personal email server, which is fine, but we can't see that, and so we can't connect it. So you just need to make sure it's something that you can sign in through Outlook.com. If you can do it through Outlook.com, that means we can connect it. And you can connect it just like Google Contacts or just like iPhone contacts. Sheila asks, is this being recorded? It absolutely is. Let me make sure, because I pushed the button. Yeah, it says, okay, it's being recorded. We are going to post it in our Facebook group. And if you want to go there and join the group, you can see it whenever you want. I'm going to put that in the chat and see if this works. So I just put that in the webinar chat. Attendees can chat with, there we go. There we go, chat's back on. So I found the hidden setting, and we can now talk to each other through the chat. So thank goodness. But yeah, I put it in the webinar chat if you want to join that group. Actually, let me try that link again, because it's called facebook.com, not just Facebook. There we go. Cool. Great question. That's where the recording is going. I'm going to put it in that group, API Nation, on Facebook. Also, if you registered, I will send you a link to this recording on Zoom, so you can take a look at it there. Is there a limit on how many contacts can be synced? Currently around 10,000 contacts in Google. That's really the limit. It's limited by Google. How many contacts you can have in Google? It's a great question, Joe. But as far as how many times it syncs, how many changes happen a month, there's no limit. It's a flat rate. It's not going to change your price, which is something else that people enjoy about API Nation. When they turn on the sync, even if they're sending over 10,000 contacts, they're not going to get a huge bill at the end of the month that says, well, we did this many tasks and we did this many, we fired this many times. No, we just make sure it happens on an ongoing basis, and you only pay that one flat price. So yeah, there's no limit there. The only limit is how much Google Contacts can hold. Joe is also asking, are you saying that labels equals tags? And what if we have multiple tags per contact? Labels does not have to equal tags, but you can absolutely set it up so that tags from KW command get put into certain people with certain labels. So you can do it that way. You don't have to. You can just take everybody from command, have them put on your phone, and you don't have to worry about labels. You don't have to worry about any of that stuff. You can just make sure they're on your phone. But you can do it either way. Do you recommend syncing from iPhone, iCloud, and Google Contacts? Actually, let's talk about that. I think that's next on this thing. It's not on this thing. This is a great question. So what Joseph Benedetto is asking is, should I just, if I have people in iCloud and I also have people in Google Contacts, should I have them both going into KW command? And in some cases, that's fine. That works. What you want to ask yourself and what you want to think about is, where is your single point of truth? And what I mean by single point of truth is you need to pick an app, a database that you know is absolutely always correct. For a lot of people, that will be command. For some people, they'll pick Google Contacts or iCloud. But if it's command, then you want to make it so that when you add contacts to command is overriding everything else. It's overriding your iCloud. It's overriding your Google Contacts. It's kind of trickling down from command, because command would be your single point of truth. You could put Google Contacts there and have everything trickle down from Google Contacts. You can put iCloud there and have everything trickle down from iCloud. But you do want to consider how would a contact cascade down? So that's something to consider before you connect it. Should you connect iCloud and Google Contacts? If you did that, that would be fine. Yeah, you can connect both iCloud and Google Contacts to command, and they'll sync in there. One thing you might want to be aware of is if you, for example, sync iCloud two-way with command, and then you also sync in Google Contacts one way, your Google Contacts will start to look like your iCloud, which might be fine. That could be actually a benefit, but it's something to keep in mind. Cool. How many platform integrations sync with command currently? Are there plans to add more platforms this year? That's a very good question. There are probably upwards of 20 that currently sync. Let's go look here. Boop. Go back to API Nation. Go to command, and you can actually see all the platforms that sync here. 1, 16, 24, 26. So about 26 currently. Are there plans to add platforms? Absolutely. We are always looking for apps to add to API Nation. There's a couple things you could do to help. First thing you want to do, you have an app that you want to connect and it's not here. Come down here, go to apination.com, go to request an app. Click on that, and you're just going to fill out a quick form. It's going to get to us, and we're going to say, oh, that is a very interesting request. Let's go talk to that app, see how we can get them on API Nation. The other thing you can do is actually reach out to the app and tell them you want them on API Nation so that you can connect this to command. Because a lot of apps are out there and they think integrations are, kind of important, but it's always something that gets kind of shelved as like, we'll do that a little bit later. So if you tell them, I'm using command, I need your app connected to me so that I'll use your app, then they'll start thinking, all right, well, let's talk to API Nation. Let's get this set up. And you guys have a lot of power there to make some of this stuff happen. So cool. Lamar, can API Nation sync house value leads from Market Leader? We've targeted Market Leader. We've talked to Market Leader. They are interested in getting connected to API Nation. So yeah, that's another thing. If you want to reach out to Market Leader, like I just said, tell them I need this done. I need this to happen. That'll put a little additional, grease in the gears so that we can get this thing rolling. All right, let's hop back in here. So before you sync, those are the 5 things I suggest. Go to your contacts, merge and fix any duplicates first, back up your contacts if you want. You absolutely don't have to, but I think it can be helpful. Set up and label your contacts so that the stuff you're syncing in is how you want. It's kind of neat and tidy your first go. And then keep in mind, don't sweat it. You can undo a lot of these changes pretty easily, especially in Google Contacts. All right, so that is before you sync. Purchasing from the KW Marketplace. We already talked a little bit about this. You're going to go to the Marketplace, find the sync you want, and then go to the tile, click it, configure, and activate this sync. So that is pretty straightforward. Now we're going to talk about creating this sync. So I'm actually going to configure a Google Contacts sync from command. So let's go over there. Let's go to the Marketplace and sign in. So I actually have a Google Contacts sync that I believe I already purchased. So it's going to be in my apps in the KW Marketplace. There it is right here. And this is what it's going to look like if you purchase a few syncs. They're all just going to live in your apps. And to set it up, I'm just going to click the tile, and it's going to take me out to API Nation to set it up. If you already have it set up, looks like I already have this one set up. So it's just going to ask me to, edit it. But if you don't have it set up, like I'm going to delete it right now, so I won't have it set up. It's going to take me through the setup process like this. So this is the first step to setting up the syncs. You click that tile, it takes you to API Nation, and now you're going to set up your sync of the 2 apps. So the first step, it says step 202 because you already purchased it, and now you're on the last step basically, is just connect to your Google account. So I already have one connected to my API Nation account. But if I want to use a different one, or if I don't have one connected, I just hit that button, choose the account I want to connect, and it will allow. And that's it. That's all it takes to connect the Google account. The next step is just this configuration stuff. So pretty simple. How it's set up currently is how most people kind of want it. But I'm going to take you through a few of these boxes. They're all very simple, real quick, just so you know what they do. The first thing that says sync all contacts on first run. This actually a lot of people want on. And what this does is this is going to take everybody who exists in KW Command, and they're going to get synced when we turn this thing on. We can put it on a filter here in a little bit to make sure it doesn't sync everybody if you don't want everybody. But basically, this is just saying, I want you to take a look at everybody at KW Command and start syncing them over to Google Contacts. If you don't check the box, if you leave it unchecked, then this sync is just running starting today. So anybody you add today, any contacts you update today, those would get synced into Google Contacts. Basically, the sync's just going to walk in there like a new person and say, hey, I'm just going to start paying attention from now on. Check the box, and the sync's going to walk in there and say, I got to start at the beginning, go through everybody, and then I'm going to start paying attention. So totally up to you. Do not overwrite information in KW Command, only add information into blank fields. So if you're syncing stuff from Google Contacts into KW Command, do you want to overwrite KW Command with the Google Contacts information, or do you just want to fill in any blank spots? This is where that single point of truth comes into play. If KW Command is your point of truth, you don't want to overwrite it. So you're going to check that box, say don't overwrite it. If you happen to have some new information, throw it in there, but don't overwrite it. If Google Contacts is your single point of truth, then let Google Contacts overwrite it. That's the one you're adding all the information to. So let it go. And then on contact as lead. You can have everybody synced in as just contacts. You'll have to go in there and mark the leads manually if you want them as leads. Or we can do it for you as they're getting added from contacts or your other CRM into command. Similar things here, setting up Google Contacts, sync all contacts on first run. Again, do I want everybody from Google Contacts to get considered for this sync, or just people starting now? Select contact folder. This is interesting. This is basically the labels. So if you only want to send over people from a certain label, You can do that. So maybe I only want to send over people who I label buyers into KW command. I could do that. Or maybe I only want to send over people who are labeled sellers. I could do that. Totally up to you again. You can even create a new folder called KW command contacts and then put people into that folder and they'll get synced that way. It's just a little bit more control over who exactly is going in there. And then finally, don't override information, exactly like the same as KW command. If KW command point of truth, let's overwrite that information. If it's not, then don't overwrite it. Finally, it's just going to ask, are we setting up a one-way sync, KW command to Google Contacts or Google Contacts to KW command? Or if I check both these boxes, it's going to set up a two-way sync. So totally up to you. Most people suggest a two-way sync. That way everything's up and rolling. And anytime I add somebody to either of these, it sends the information to the other contact. And then also just make sure you're not using any other platforms to sync before you turn this thing on. That way we're not syncing people to command and then somebody else is syncing people to command. And there's just so many cooks in the kitchen that you find, some new duplicates. So if you're using, Zapier, PySync, Make, anybody else to sync, just make sure that's turned off first before you continue. So I'm going to hit continue. And then you can see you're almost there. To get your syncs up and running, you just want to click the setup button and finish. So here is our two syncs we just created. They have little new tags. And if I look over here, they're listed as drafts. So what we just did was we created these two syncs. And now we're just going to do a final check before we activate them. So I'm going to hit the setup button. And this is just to make sure this is just a final go through, just make sure exactly what I want to happen is happening before I activate the sync. And there's a couple of additional options in here as well. But in basically, you can see we're sending people from this folder that I selected. And like I said, you can select just, all folders if you want, or default, same thing. I'm not syncing all contacts on first run. I'm having everybody set as a lead. And I'm not overwriting information. The other two things you can look at here, filters. We have this powerful filter option here. So for example, I'm sending over everybody from Google Contacts default. This means everybody from all the, it doesn't matter what label they have, but maybe I only want to send over somebody from a certain zip code. So maybe I'm creating a list of people who are in a certain zip code. Or maybe I'm creating a list of people who work at a certain company. I could do that. I could say, hey, let's do company Keller Williams. And then it's going to create, it's only going to sync over people who have that listed in their company. You can do any of these fields that are coming over from Google Contacts. Notes is actually a pretty popular one. You can say, hey, notes contains, seller. And then if you add somebody to your Google Contacts, you write a little note to yourself and the word sellers anywhere in there, it's going to get synced. You don't have to use the filters. If you're just trying to get contacts shared back and forth, just leave the filters off and just, start sharing those contacts. But they're there if you want them, if you want to do something a little bit more advanced, especially if you're doing something, KW command with another app. Like MailChimp, like Constant Contact or something like that, where you want a little bit more advanced segmentation. Finally, mapping. We do most of this for you. You can see that's kind of what makes this easy and you don't have to worry too much about it. First name, email, mobile phone, last name, middle name. If there's anything else you want to add, you can just find the field. For example, here's description. I want to add notes from Google Contacts. So I'm going to hit this plus sign. And it's going to show me all the fields from Google Contacts I can put in there. And I can look around until I find notes, or I could just type notes at the top. And it's going to show me. There we go. So if you look for something and nothing comes up, maybe you're looking for anniversary and nothing comes up, try it slightly different words, purchase date, something like that. But it's also possible Google Contacts just doesn't offer it as a field to sync over. Let's see, notes are going to description. Somebody asked earlier about company. Let me see, is company here? Let me see if company. It doesn't look like company is available to write into in KW command. So let me write a note about that. Where is company? Because I do know that's like something people are using in KW to kind of keep track of that stuff. If you wanted, you could sync company to the description, and you could do it like this. So you have notes going into description. One of the nice thing about the setup is you can add more than one Google Contacts field. So we can have the notes go in there, and then I can hit enter, gives me a new line, and then I can type company colon, and then add that company field from Google Contacts. So then it's going to have all the notes I wrote in Google Contacts, and at the very end, it's going to say, and also they work at company, and then it's going to fill in the company name from Google Contacts. So that's one way to get it in there. But I'll definitely ask about, if there's a company field we can just map to. So once I feel pretty good about this, I'm going to activate this sync. And then once it's up and running, looks good. I'm going to go to my syncs, and I'm just going to do the same thing going the other direction. Go through here, map everything up how I want, and go to the top and activate this sync. So there he is. That is how you set up the sync. It's now running two ways. You can see I have active workflows, Google Contacts into KW Command, and KW Command into Google Contacts. So there we go. Now I'm going to show you, I'm going to look at questions real quick, but after that, I'm going to show you a little bit of some additional kind of advanced moves people are doing with this sync. I talked to you earlier about how you can set up multiple syncs and still just pay $10. I'm going to show you what that exception is, what that kind of looks like here. But first, let's see here. Can we put command tags to labels, G contacts? Not exactly, no. I'm going to touch on that with that kind of exception here in just a little bit here, Timoteo. Joe, can you sync into custom fields? It depends on the app. So like MailChimp, syncing from from command into MailChimp, if you've created custom fields in MailChimp or Constant Contact or some other apps, we can see those and you can sync into those. So definitely try that. Interesting. Is it? Do you mean custom fields in one of those other apps, Joe, or do you mean custom fields in like? Can you add custom fields to KW Command? I haven't seen that yet. Yeah. If you could throw that in the chat, just a little bit clarify there. But it depends app to app whether we can sync into custom fields. If you are syncing from a lead generation platform like Boomtown or Follow Up Boss, will API Nation sync notes or things outside the phone number and email of leads to Command's database? Again, that depends on what the app is offering. So Follow Up Boss gives a lot of information. So you can sync phone number, you can sync email, you can sync a bunch of the other fields that come over that you enter into Follow Up Boss. I don't believe notes are available from Follow Up Boss. Chime, again, also Chime and Brevity also allow a lot of information to get synced. Boomtown does not have a ton of information that they allow to get synced. So that is, if you don't see it on there, it's probably just because the original platform is not offering it. All right. So before we get into this, Jaya, can you try it and how to sync Follow Up Boss and Command? Yeah, I'll do that at the very end. Just kind of touch on syncing a CRM to Command and talk about that. All right. Let's get into this kind of advanced thing I wanted to show you. So, and about, labels and tags. So we set up this two-way sync between Google Contacts and KW Command. I'm going to click on it. I'm going to go to settings. And this is kind of the thing. You can set up this sync between Google Contacts and KW Command as many times as you want with different rules. It's still going to be $10. So for example, I can say that seller field, seller label, send it to KW command, tag it as seller or FSBO or whatever other label I'm doing, and activate that. Cool. So now it is sending all my seller, everybody I labeled as seller, into command. They're labeled as seller. The last thing I want to do is rename this. I can name my sync so I know exactly what they're doing. And I'm going to say seller. And now I can hit clone. And it's going to create that exact same sync. And then I just have to edit it a little bit before I activate it. So I'm going to say, this time we're going to do buyers or whatever other tag you want. I'm going to come down here, change the tag from seller to buyer. That way, when it goes into KW, it'll have the buyer tag. I'm going to rename it and activate that sync. And I can continue to do this for every label from Google Contacts I want synced into KW command, or vice versa. So I can do it for, I think I have a FSBO group. Yeah, let's do it. FSBO. Change this to FSBO. And I'm going to change the tag to FSBO. So there we go. Now I have 3 syncs running. The price is not changed. If I go here to my syncs now, you see I now have 3 Google Contacts to KW command syncs going, and just 1 from KW command to Google Contacts. Like I said, it works both ways. So if I wanted to do it this way, I would just say, anybody from KW command, and then I would use this filter in this case and say, whose tag contains seller, save it, send them into Google Contacts into the seller label. And that's how I would do it going the other direction. So if you're coming from KW command, you're going to use this little filter module. If you're going into KW command, you're going to write the tag actually in the tags field of the mapping. So this is running. And then, like I said, you can clone it, do it again, this time with buyer, change the name, buyer, change the folder, and then change the filter. Tags contains buyer. And you'll notice it says tags contains buyer, not tags equals buyer. Because if you put in tags equals buyer and there's more than one tag, let's say you market buyer and you also market hot and you also market coffee shop or wherever you met them, or sphere of influence. Because it has those 3, it's going to say that tag is not buyer. That tag is buyer, sphere of influence, hot. And so it's going to say it does not equal buyer. But if you just say contains and the word buyer is in any of those tags, it's going to sync it over. So just something to keep in mind there. Cool. So that's the exception to how you can set up a bunch of syncs for just the same flat rate. Let me double check here. Does the phone number need any specific configuration to be accepted by any of the apps? That's a great question, Timoteo. That does not. When we set up the sync to KW command, we set it up so that it transforms any number and puts it in KW command how KW command needs. If you're sending stuff out of KW command to another app, and it's, maybe it's something like Google Sheets where it's wide open. Google Sheets doesn't have a lot of rules. You can just throw a phone number in there. Something you might want to consider. Let me go back here to KW command. So let's imagine we're syncing from KW command. It says Google Contacts here, but let's say we're syncing out to a Google Sheet. If I come down here and I'm creating all this information, it's going into a Google Sheet. And for example, a primary phone is coming out. It's showing me how that phone number is going to come out. + numbers. And if you think, you know what, I don't want it to come out like that in my Google Sheet or in my other app, you can hit this gear and change the phone format. And you can choose any of these formats, and it's going to transform whatever the input is, whatever it's sending over, into the format you choose. So if you say, you know what, I just need it to be just simple numbers, you can do it that way, and it's going to take the number it's offered transform it into just numbers, and that's what's going to go into the receiving app. Like I said, for the stuff going into command, we take care of this so that it automatically works. But if you're sending stuff out of command to another app, and you want it to be a certain way, you can use this phone format. This actually came up with some people who have international phones because they wanted it to go into Google Contacts, or I think it was another app, and the app wasn't recognizing it as a phone number because it didn't have the plus sign that was coming through. So something to consider there. All right, and let's see, we've got about 10 minutes left. I'm going to hit a few more questions, and then we're going to tackle follow-up bots and command just as kind of a a teaser for some of our upcoming webinars about connecting marketing tools, connecting video tools, connecting direct mail tools, and connecting CRMs. So we'll do that one last. Joe, if I put multiple tags in Google Sheets, will it recognize that the comma means a new tag? When I've tried this, it did. What Joe is saying is basically, let's say somebody comes to you and they're like, you know what? I have my people in Google Sheet and I need them to get into KW command. And you're thinking, all right, that seems doable. And they say, actually, and also I want them tagged a certain way. So let's just say it's like this, and 555, and Gabe, cool. So obviously it'd be a ton more contacts, but you're trying to get this into KW command, and he says, I want him tagged, hot, but I also want him tagged FSBO, this person in particular. So to do that, you would just hit hot, comma to separate them so that it knows this is a new tag, and then FSBO. And that way it knows that there's two tags there actually. So that's what you would do. And that, when I tried it, it worked. So that's what I would say there. Can I link to multiple Google Contacts accounts or just one? There's a couple options here. You can absolutely link one command account to a bunch of different Google Contacts accounts. You would set up a different, you would create different, you would have to create different subscriptions in the marketplace for each Google Contacts account. So they would all have to have a different sync here. So they would have to have different logins, I believe, to the marketplace. The other option would be you can have one sync to like a central office or team Google Contacts account. And then you can use this delegate access to invite everybody else in the team to also have access to those contacts. So that's another option, which could just create like a nice single place where they're all getting synced. And then just as you onboard people, you can say, I'm just going to give you access to our contacts, and do it that way. Does it only add new leads or will it pull over current contacts? That's a good question, Natasha. That depends on when you're setting it up. So when you're setting it up, there was that option, sync all contacts on first run. If you check that box, it'll send over all leads, current contacts included. If you don't check the box, it's only going to send over new leads. All right, cool. 5 more minutes and then we're hopping off. These are great questions. I'm going to go through these at the end. So I'm just going to grab these and put these in a sheet, and then I will go ahead and email you if I didn't get to you on this session. So the last thing we had some questions about was something like follow-up boss. It's going to look exactly like syncing to Google Contacts. You're going to go to Marketplace, and you're just going to search for that follow-up boss sync. So you can just search for follow-up boss. And once you find it, I'm going to click on API Nation to kind of filter things down a little bit. Once you find the sync, follow, there it is, KW command and follow boss. You'll just, again, go through, purchase the sync. This is one of those with a 30-day free trial. So you can purchase it. Once you purchase it, it's going to be in My Apps. Let's see if I have it. Yep, there it is. And then you're going to click on it to connect it. And like Google Contacts, it's just going to ask you to connect the two apps. I can just click the setup wizard. This is what you'll see. And KW command is connected. So you're just going to connect follow boss. This is a little bit different than Google Contacts. You know, when you did Google Contacts, it just said, all right, here's your Google accounts. Which one do you want to connect? For follow up boss and for some of these apps, they request an API key from the app. So for follow up boss, that's easy. Just go into follow up boss and log in. And you're going to go to admin, more. And then you have API keys. So you just create one if you want, and you can call this KW command. And then it's gonna say, all right, here's your API key. Just copy it. Make sure you copy it. For a lot of these apps, when you create an API key, MailChimp, Follow Boss, a couple others, they're only gonna show it to you once. So make sure you copy it and go into API Nation and make this connection before you close that little window. Otherwise, you're gonna have to create a whole new key, which isn't a big deal, but it's just kind of a bit of hassle. And then you're just gonna name the connection. And this is really just if you're like an admin or somebody who's working with a lot of different companies and you're connecting a bunch of different follow bosses, you can name them different things. So maybe this is the Main Street office follow up boss account, or maybe this is, you know, the Sunset Boulevard. And then hit connect. All right. And then again, this is going to look remarkably similar. So syncing all contacts on first run, adding information or overriding information, setting all contacts as leads. Again, it's going to be the same thing. You can choose single direction or bidirectionally, either way. And then you're just going to verify you're not using another platform. Hit continue. It's going to create the two syncs. You can see they're both tagged new. And you're just going to go through and finish setup. So you can put on filters. You can double check the mapping, and then you're just going to activate it. And that's it. That's just going to live here in KW command to Google. Yeah, like that. So there we go. Cool. The last thing I want to talk about, I'm going to grab these cute questions in here, and I'll find you in the registrations and send you the answers. The final thing I want to talk about, just in case you're interested, hopefully this doesn't happen, but you know, maybe this is what it comes to. If you need to cancel any of these syncs, no problem. Especially if you know you had a trial and you're like, you know what, wasn't what I wanted. First, definitely reach out. Let us know why it wasn't what you wanted, because these are not set in stone. We've done our best to make them useful for you, but these are pliable. So think of these as things that, you know, a group project, they should be, you know, should definitely work. But if they're not doing exactly what you hope, we want to hear from you so that we can make sure they're doing exactly what you hope. So we've actually had some great feedback lately about some changes we can make to the syncs. But if you think, you know what, or maybe you're getting out of that app, so maybe you're done with Lion Desk, you don't need it sync into Lion Desk anymore. You can just come here, click on the gear, go to Manage App, and you're going to change it to cancel subscription, I believe. Yep, you're just going to click that, and then it's done, and then you're all done. So that is just something to know. Manage App, cancel subscription. It's cool. That is about it. We're at our limit. The last thing I would suggest, well, the first thing I would suggest is go to the marketplace, look at all the apps you can sync through API Nation, start syncing your Google Contacts, or your iPhone contacts or your Outlook contacts, so that you're saving yourself a bunch of time, your stuff is more organized, and things are where you need them. The other thing, if you need any assistance, you can go to apination.com/KW. You can just go to apination.com if you want, and that'll take you there. But yeah, if you go to apination.com/KW, if my connection's not being weird, it'll take you to a site for assistance. Let me try this. It'll look like this, yeah. And it'll have all the questions we have answers for, and you can learn all about it here. Again, if you just want, you can go to apination.com, but we also set up that special KW site for you guys. Cool. All right. If you missed anything, or you thought, I actually want to learn more about a certain sync that we didn't quite cover, we're going to cover them all in future webinars. So just pay attention to that, and you should see invites and reminders about that stuff. But if you're thinking, I need to know about it today, the best chance is to go to our YouTube site. And we have a ton of different videos for KW command syncs, follow-up boss, Facebook lead ads, Real Geeks, Chime. So yeah, if you are interested in syncing any of this stuff, you can learn all about it on our YouTube page. You can just search for API Nation on YouTube. Yeah, cool. Well, that's about it, guys. Thanks for hanging in there. I will email out a link to a copy of this recording, and I'll also email you guys about the next webinar. And I'm going to grab all these questions right now and make sure that I respond to them so that you guys have the answers you need. Thanks again, and I hope you all have a very great weekend.